Now, Avril Hong spoke with Professor Shanta Devarajan of the Practice of International Development at the Edmund Walsh School of Foreign Service, Georgetown University, and he's also part of a government advisory panel formed to tackle the country's debt crisis. He explained the reforms Sri Lanka needs to make to secure that bailout from the IMF.
What we need to do, and that's what the program is trying to negotiate, is to reverse those policies. So we increase taxes, we cut some of the subsidies that mainly benefit the rich, and we provide targeted cash transfers to the poorest so that we can cushion them from some of these blows that they're facing. In addition, the government has raised interest rates and allowed the exchange rate to be flexible. All of these are going to induce greater macroeconomic stability. So I am optimistic that we can reach that agreement. The difficulty is that in the intervening time between now and when we reach the agreement, Sri Lanka still has no foreign exchange. But we're hopeful that we can get bridge financing from some of the other friendly nations like Japan and China, and because that's going to be necessary for the necessary imports like medicines and food and fuel over the next 3 months.
And it's estimated that we will need $6 billion. Sri Lanka is going to need $6 billion through the end of the year. How do you think it's going to get those funds, whether it's from India or other countries?
Well, there are two parts to that, because the end of the year involves 6 months, say, of which during the first 3 months, I think Sri Lanka will have to rely on this bridge financing from generous, friendly nations like India and Japan and so on. But then assuming the IMF agreement is reached in, say, September of this year, then that will release an additional $3-4 billion from the IMF, World Bank, and the Asian Development Bank. That will then help them get to the end of the year.
Professor, do you think you could look a bit further ahead for Sri Lankans and how the resolution potentially of all this might still mean that it's not the end for the hardship for the people of Sri Lanka and the kind of economic and social costs that they might have to bear for decades to come?
Yes, that's a very good question. I think we this hardship and this sort of belt tightening that has been going on now for about 6 months will probably persist for another year or so, year and a half. That's the projections. But in about a year and a half, Sri Lanka should be able to get access to private capital markets as well. So at that point, they can start borrowing for investment, and that could then generate growth. And the economy will, we hope, by these reforms that we're talking about now, will position the economy to be in a place to make use of those investments for rapid and inclusive economic growth. So I think in a year and a half to 2 years, we can see the economy resuming growth and including better income distribution.